When
We
you
were talking about this.
when you were in Scientology and you were sort of like, you had been baited for this higher position level because the other person left or whatever. I can't remember what you called it when you leave Scientology, but
you call it blowing.
Blowing. Okay.
Like he blew.
Right. Right.
Hey,
So,
what happened to Joe? Oh, he blew.
So, was there talk of Xenu at all?
Talk of what?
Xenu.
No.
No one was like even talking about the actual sort of like beliefs or functionings going on.
Yes.
Like, what?
No, and that would be really interesting to get into, like in a really like a full length discussion about that or interview, because
Sure.
there are some misconceptions about the practices.
Yeah.
And how they don't necessarily relate to all of the literature or stories.
Right.
Some of these are
Right.
definitely, even within Scientology, considered allegorical, kind of like biblical stories that aren't necessarily seen as true.
Right.
So, and this is not to defend Scientology, but of course people are going to find out about Xenu dropping people into volcanoes out of airplanes, and then conflate that and because that's ridiculous, and it's interesting and it's funny, and it makes it really, really easy to put that up, point to that stuff, and then immediately refocus on the general goings on of people in Scientology who really have nothing to do with any of that.
Right.
And it's just like someone, talking about Moses and the burning bush and how that's so ridiculous, and but no real like devout Christians in their lives almost ever or thinking about or pondering or believing that some guy was talking to a burning bush. But that's real. I mean, that's part of the literature, but or Noah's Ark and all of the goofy stuff that goes along with the logistics of putting every animal in a boat, and that's not big enough, and that where does all the shit go?
Right, and like, what about the predators?
So, but to get back to Xenu, really, like, that is, like, that literature really exists, and it's presented in some very expensive upper level auditing courses that almost nobody can afford or actually does. Most of the people this is interesting, most of the people who do those courses at that level, I mean, like I was saying, this is like, upwards of $1,000 to $5,000 an hour to sit with the soup cans and have the guy ask you questions. A lot of the people who do that they're on staff, so they get staff auditing for free. There's also, but there's a caveat with that. If you're on staff and you getting all this auditing work done, and you leave, you blow that pop stand. That's where the term kind of came from, like that old 50s jargon that Hubbard was so fond of. So if you leave, you can be saddled with what's called a freeloader's debt. where
God.
where the trick just says, oh, by the way, all that stuff that you were getting for free, now it's retroactively not free, and here's an invoice for like, $25,000 or whatever the case is, and that's real. Like, that's one of the techniques that they use to hold shit over people's heads very effectively. Like you know you are not leaving, and here's the price tag for you leaving. So that's something that isn't really discussed either. They don't have to sue you. All they have to do is send you a bill, and if you don't pay the bill, it's going to go in your credit report. It's going to mess you up. So, so that, in short, kind of that's what people are talking about. South Park, and all the things that they really cherry picked from this group, to make it even more ridiculous than it already is, and dangerous, by the way. It's not, you could disregard all that stuff, it doesn't exist, because it almost really doesn't exist. And Scientology is it's evil-minded and dangerous anyway. Yeah. So, I really would love to get into a more in-depth discussion again about some specifics like this in maybe a further episode, for sure. I think it would be really interesting. People are giving me a lot of good feedback about what I talked about, the questions you asked me, survivors who have really come forward. These, I guess, 4, the 3 parts and then the full uncut interview. In, I guess, 5 days now. That grouping of 4 videos, 4 interviews has topped all of the other most popular things that we've done in that time.
Cool, man.
The interview that you did with Eric Thor from Sunset Bay. Very popular. We published that about a month ago. It's very popular. The Scientology stuff just leapt over all of that within less than a week.
Wow.
So we're definitely touching some nerves, and I'm waiting, frankly, for some blowback, and it's just not coming. I know that because of the hashtags I put on it, and if you search YouTube, those videos are already on the second page, they're already there. Mixed in with all of the Scientology propaganda stuff, we're right below that. It's really interesting. I love it. So I definitely want to keep doing that, because just like the teen survivors, there are a lot of people out there in any number of groups or systems or programs that people have been a part of for whatever reason. Naivete, they got tricked, they got forced. There are a lot of people out there who have been under the fist of these types of programs that don't have any avenue to speak out, or they're afraid. So I love the fact that we can provide an outlet, that's safe, and it can be anonymous,